Starting lineup, uniforms, and apparel present the WOA Senior AA Men's Hockey League podcast. Hello once again, everybody. Andrew Rogers here, the host of the WOAA Senior AA Men's Hockey League podcast. This is episode number 11. I want to thank Mitch Scott, the promoting sponsor from Starting Lineup, uniform and apparel. And of course, I'm Andrew Rogers, your host. It's great to be back with you, and thanks again for tuning in. It's amazing the amount of feedback and viewership that I keep getting from these videos. For example, this past episode that we had Brad Burton and Nathan Ansel on from the Clinton Radars, they were just fantastic. It was just such a good chat with them. It was great to be able to talk with them and hear about their experiences with Clinton and throughout this league that we all care so much about and we all are really happy to be a part of. For me personally, I'm heavily invested in this league and its successes, and it definitely sounds like these guys have done an admirable job at representing this league to their finest ability, and they're true examples of how great this league is, and it was great having them on and great to hear their stories about this past season. It was, and we look forward to having them on again down the road. Still no update on what's going to happen with the league in general in terms of upcoming and whether or not the next season is going to be taking place on time. There was a report that was sent out by Hockey Canada about them canceling all organized Hockey Canada related events up until September the 1st. Now, when it comes to the Senior A League, it doesn't fall under the same guidelines as Hockey Canada, but there is a direct relation in terms of what's going on. So there's just a lot of things that need to be figured out in terms of how this league would even operate under the new conditions to decide whether or not this upcoming season will even take place. It would be a real shame, no question, if it didn't happen, but we are all holding our collective breaths in the hope of getting some answers and figuring out sooner rather than later, because like I say, the longer this drags on and the more uncertainty, it's going to definitely create some uneasiness among players and personnel amongst teams as well that are trying to figure out getting set up for the season with a lot of uncertainty. It's really hard to do that. We do have a great lineup of guests upcoming after today's episode. We have Jake Prudhomme, the assistant coach of the Petrolia Squires, coming up on our next episode on Monday. We have Chad and Reed Swartzentruber, the Swartzentruber brothers. They're coming on next Wednesday. And then the following Friday, a week from today, we have Scott Stafford from the Tillsonburg Thunder, who's going to be coming on and joining us on the podcast. So really excited to have our next few guests lined up, and excited to keep the momentum going strong with this podcast, which is seemingly going very, very well, and very excited about that. As I am excited about our guest that I'm going to introduce here shortly. He led the entire WOAA Senior AA Men's Hockey League in scoring last season with an impressive 48 points. He probably would have been the unanimous, very close to unanimous choice for the MVP of the season last year had it concluded. He was part of the league-leading 19-3 Ripley Wolves. He was their captain. He wore number 16, and his name is Garrett Meurs. It's at this time that I'd like to welcome in our guest. He is the captain of the Ripley Wolves. He wears number 16. He was the leading scorer in the WOA Senior AA Men's Hockey League last season. Plays for the Ripley Wolves. His name is Garrett Meurs. Garrett, welcome to the podcast, pal.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. It's great to talk with you. I've been looking forward to having you on. As this year I was really impressed with you all around. Your play was just spectacular, and it resulted in some really impressive numbers. So first of all, congratulations on winning the points total. For having that distinction over the league for the course of the regular season, and an unbelievable year to you. So hats off, pal.
But thanks a lot. Yeah, it was a good season, and obviously with all the talent in the league, it's an honor to have accumulated the most points, and a lot of that goes to my line mates too. I had a couple great line mates that I played with basically the whole season, so yeah, it was a good year.
Perfect. One of the first questions I've been asking everybody is, COVID Obviously, it's hit people in a lot of different ways. I'm really always interested to see kind of how everybody's doing. I was talking with Brad Burton and Nathan Ansel on the last podcast because they were also in the same position as you were. You were right in the thick of things when you were right in the middle of your best of 7 semifinal when the season abruptly got canceled. So how you doing? How's everything going?
It's good. Obviously, it was disappointing end of the season. We had a great series there with Mapleton Minto, and just it definitely wasn't how we wanted to go out in the playoffs, especially with how great a regular season we had. And but since then, I've just been doing what everyone else is, trying to go to work and staying safe.
Right on. That's good, man. I'm glad to hear that. So, like I say, take me back to the season. Let's just talk about the regular season and how impressive it was from a point standpoint. What was it like to be a part of the great season that you guys had, based on the fact that overall in the whole entire league, it was probably one of the most competitive seasons we've ever seen?
For sure. We went into this year obviously coming off the finals loss to Clinton last year, just hoping to, repeat that with a bit of a better finish. But obviously, there's a lot of great teams in the league, and it was just amazing to see how close everyone was by the end of the year. Like, we had to check the standings every week to make sure that we were still at number one, and teams like Shelburne and Clinton and Seaforth are right behind us, and Saugeen Shores too. So, yeah, it was just an unreal season for everybody.
Yeah, no doubt, absolutely. I mean, like I say, I was honestly so impressed with the fact that you guys finished 19-3 and how much of an impressive dogfight that was at the top there between, like I say, you guys, Shelburne, Clinton, and Saugeen Shores, and even Seaforth. I mean, Tillsonburg. It was really a battle amongst all 8 teams that finished on the AA side. What I was really impressed with was that series that you guys had in the first round against Durham that went 7 games. Can you speak to how intense that was to be a part of that?
Yeah, for sure. Durham had our number all year, it seems. We had 3, like you said, we had 3 losses all year, and 2 of them were to Durham.
Right.
So we went into that series, expecting a dogfight, and we got one. It was a great series for both teams, and I think we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, obviously, again, you prevailed big. You prevailed in the 7th game when you needed it most, and then that took you into what ended up being an unbelievable 4 games, having seen it firsthand as well. I mean, it's one thing for me to be watching it, it's another to be playing in it. But after those first 2 games, you guys were riding high. What was the morale like for you guys after those first 2 wins?
Yeah, we went. Obviously, we had the first 2 wins, and we expected to keep going like that. But we knew that Mapleton Minto was a better team than that too. Even all season, we knew they weren't a 7th place team, and we were ready for them, but obviously not ready enough. And they came at us hard. It made for it would have been an exciting finish to that series for sure. Yeah,
no, I mean, trust me, man, I was about as disappointed as anybody that the series didn't get to conclude, because I honestly think it could have gone the distance, and really, the way it was going, no disrespect to anybody, but I believe it would have been a coin flip, to be honest, with who would have been the one that come out on top, so.
Yeah, for sure. I think it would have been a close one.
No doubt. So I want to ask you about some of the moments from this season. Like, what was your best moment from this past season, if you could pick one out?
I would have to go with Game 7 win against Durham. There, we were down. Actually, they were up in the series 2, and we had to win Game 6 in their arena and pulled that one out and came home, and we just went out there as best we could and came home with the win in Game 7.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's like I say, it was just such a resilient win in that series, best of 7, to go down 3-2 against a very scrappy Durham team. Like, what would you say was the toughest thing about what made them such a difficult opponent for you guys?
Yeah, I obviously we played them last year in the playoffs too, and we went to 6 games against them last year. They just seem to have our number. They play us really well. Their system, they have good coaching, a lot of talent on that team too. So they're obviously a great team, and we knew that, and they play us well, and just wait for a great series.
Yeah, for sure. No, absolutely. I want to ask you one thing that I actually found really interesting in terms of a plot line throughout the season was your guys' acquisition of Gatlinburg. Talk to me about how important it was bringing him in and for that stretch drive into the playoff run.
Yeah, Gatlin was huge for us. at the start of the season, we knew that coming down to the playoffs, I think you're only allowed to have 2 goalies. So we were struggling to find a goalie with Kurt Edwards retiring at the end of last year. So,
Right.
We saw Gatlin didn't have a team, so we gave him a call. He'd played a lot of junior with a lot of the players on our team in Kincardine.
Right.
And I've known him for a few years, so he made for a great fit and fit in perfect, and he was great for us down the stretch.
Yeah, I thought that 1-2 tandem of him and Jason Hamilton was very, very impressive, especially in the Minto series. It was fun to watch them play. I want to ask you about Jordan Turcotte. How huge of how impressive is he as a defender on your squad?
Yeah, he's a very talented, smart hockey player. Turk, he always seems to know what's going to happen next, and he's always making the right move. Good skater, and always makes a good first pass of his own. And he was a great pickup for us too. He played a few years ago and got hurt, so it was good to see him back out.
Yeah, no doubt. He was very impressive to watch in the amount of games that I got to watch him play firsthand. Talk about some of your line mates. You did give them a lot of credit off the hop there. How impressive were they to play alongside, and how much credit do you owe of your success to them?
Yeah, I played a lot of the season with Adam Alexander and Dan Nikolaus, and we just seemed to always find each other in the right spots. Alexander was a centerman there, and he just came over. He was in Saugeen Shores a few years ago, and then he went away. He's a chiropractor, so he went away to school, and so now he's back, and he fit right in with us. Nikolaus he's been on the team for 3 years now, and he can always seem to find a way to put the puck in the net. So things just worked out perfect for all 3 of us.
That's awesome. I mean, you could speak to a lot of, again, how successful a line can be by how well you kind of gel together and the chemistry there. When in your 2 years in the league, what have you noticed most about the jump from your previous experience hockey wise in terms of how is this league different from any other league that you've played in?
For sure. It's definitely a different league. Like, I grew up in Ripley, and I used to watch the Ripley Wolves of the old days. And, since I was 14, 15 watching that, the league is definitely a lot different. There's a lot of talent. You see it every day, or every game, because it's not every day. So that's basically the main difference. A lot of the only difference is you're not on the ice every day like you used to be. But there's definitely a lot of talent here, and it's good to see.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's the talent is unparalleled, and that's part of why this podcast. That's why the driven force behind the podcast is to give the exposure and the recognition to players like yourself that have so much skill and so much talent that it just has to go recognized, because it's an absolute shame if it doesn't. Garrett, when you play out in this league, is there a legitimate fear for you about, from a health standpoint, that I got to make sure I'm protecting myself because I got responsibilities. I have things that I need to do on Monday morning.
Yeah, but I think that's one thing that people think about, but we're all there at the same thing. Like, we all know that everyone's got to do that. So at the same time, everyone's got a lot of respect for each other and knows that. So no, I have no worries at all, because I know we're all here for the same thing. We're just there because everyone on the ice likes to play hockey, and we want to have a little bit of fun.
No, I agree with that. I think it's so important in this league to be able to keep it fun, keep it light, but also you can't lose that competitive edge at the end of the day. No question about it.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, as people are giving each other as much respect as they can, but they're still going to go out there and give it everything they got out every night.
Absolutely. I think that's part of what makes this league so great. Garrett, are you legitimately concerned at this point that there may not be a season next year?
I hadn't thought much about it. I was talking to a teammate the other day, and he mentioned something about it. And that's the first time I thought that maybe there wouldn't be. But I definitely hope that is not the case, because I don't know what I'd do with my time next winter if there wasn't hockey. So right. I'm really hoping that everything will work out.
Yeah, no, I think everybody is, and obviously the fact that there is so much uncertainty as to what it's going to look like, I think, is the biggest thing right now that's got everybody worried. Garrett, I mean, you've been playing hockey for a long time. You've been through a lot in your hockey career. Who do you owe your biggest success or your biggest influence to getting you started? Who do you owe all your success to?
I think everyone goes to their parents to start. Obviously driving into the rink every single day in the winter. I didn't live in town. I had to get a ride in every time I wanted to go to the arena on a snow day. So I obviously owe a lot to that. And then going to AAA, you do a lot of driving there. So, my parents did a lot of work for me, and it went a long way.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, you ask anybody and they're going to say their parents, and it's just such a neat thing. Then, obviously, I think for the player to give recognition and shout outs to their parents for how their hockey career has ended up, I think is a huge plus, and it's always a feel good story. I want to ask you about. So one of the things that I find really interesting about you, and I got to admit that I didn't really know a ton about your history leading up into this league until. I noticed you on the score sheet, but I noticed that, in terms of your hockey career, you did get drafted by the Colorado Avalanche, and I want to ask you about that because that's not something I get to ask a lot of people about. How cool of an experience was that for you?
Yeah, that was one of the best days. It was didn't really know what was going to happen on that day, so there's a few friends and family over, and we just waited to see what happened, and I was lucky enough to get picked there, and it was just a special moment.
Now, who is the person that called your name on that draft day? It would have been the second day of draft day, right?
Yes, it was the Saturday, and I honestly I can't remember now. I remember hearing it, and then I got a phone call from a member of the scouting team, and then I'm pretty sure that guy doesn't work for the organization anymore, to be honest.
Fair enough.
I think I remember he got fired a couple of years later. So I don't know if that was my fault or what happened.
I doubt it was your fault, Chase. Garrett, I doubt it was your fault. No, but okay. So after you get drafted, you kind of spend the bulk of your time there in Lake Erie for the farm club. Do you look back on that and as does it fuel your hockey career in a sense that you weren't able to make that jump, do you look back at it as a learning experience? I don't know. I don't know what that's like personally. I've never been there.
It was just an awesome experience. Just as everybody's dream, obviously, is to play in the NHL, but I was still getting paid to play in the minor league, so it was still a dream. I was waking up, getting to go to the rink every day as a job. So I just took it as a once in a lifetime experience and just went with it as long as I could and tried to make the most of it and hopefully, obviously, make the jump to the next stage. And It didn't work out, but, it was still a lot of fun.
Well, you know what, Paul, I got to tell you, from having watched you play this past season, it's for no lack of talent and skill. You got a ton of it, dude, honestly, and I'm very impressed by watching you play. I want to ask you about, Ripley in general and this league in general. You've played in it for 2 seasons now. What would you say to somebody that's thinking about making the jump to the league or even specifically to Ripley? What would you say to endorse that to them?
I think Ripley's got a special team. I grew up out in the country here and I moved into town 5 years ago now and came home every summer when I was playing down hockey in the States. Hockey down in the States, I should say. But like I said, Ripley, the team's been around for a long time. There's a lot of history with it. It's a great little town. We get a lot of fan turnout, a lot of fun. People enjoy going to the games. They stay at the Wolves Den after, the beer gardens upstairs, and enjoy the fun. And the junior players are huge to this league. And obviously the Ripley, a lot of things changed a few years ago. We had a few players come over from the Bulldogs, Brett Cato and Cody Britton.
Yeah.
They came over here and they changed a lot of things in Ripley. They turned that organization right around. They won the A side there, and things just seem to go up from there.
Yeah, no, for sure, I get that, and like I say, I think it's an unbelievable league, and I really think it's one of the most competitive leagues that you can play in after a junior career, and to be a part of that is something special, no question. I guess at this point, if there is a season next year, what is the goal?
I think the goal for sure is obviously to win. That's what everyone's goal is every season. We have a few players that aren't getting any younger, so hopefully we'll have next year because we want to get one. We had obviously Nick Seiler and Hammy there, Hamilton. They came over from Palmerston when they folded, and obviously they're back now, but they're here. They want to win. They don't make that drive. They brought a few younger kids now from over that area, and they don't come over here to not win. So that's the whole goal is every day is to win.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you. As an offensively skilled player as you are, do you find that there's any particular team or even defender that you may find that you struggle going up against? Like, have you noticed that, on any given night against said team that you might struggle more often than not?
I think one team, obviously, as we spoke about earlier, they play us really well. Durham has probably the best D-core in the league there. They have their top 4 defensemen right along with anyone that you'd ever see, like with Nixon and Matheson and a couple other ones there. They're quite the duo.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. And like I said, I mean, having followed along, just looking at the box scores and keeping along with on social media and everything that everybody is always talking to, that series was like must watch, and I wish I could have been there. I wish I could have also been at the Clinton Seaforth first round series, but I was busy with my own, with us and Shelburne, obviously, and I couldn't be in all 4 places at once. But I wish I could have been.
It was a heck of a series.
But yeah, no, it was just such an unbelievable season. And again, my hat's off to you, pal, because you had an unbelievable year points wise. It was just an incredible accomplishment and one that you should be really proud of. And definitely, like I said, my hat's off to you on an unbelievable year. And again, sorry that it couldn't, that the season couldn't conclude the way it was supposed to. And, like I say, at the end of the day, my heart goes out to all of the players that were affected because, I mean, I know how much I was affected personally, but I couldn't believe what it would have been like to be in your guys' shoes. So,
yeah, tough season, but everyone's got to look out for everyone's health and everyone's got to be safe. So, got to go with the rules. Absolutely.
We want to at this point we want to thank our guest. We want to thank Garrett Meurs from the Ripley Wolves for coming on and joining us on the podcast. Garrett, it's been an absolute blast speaking with you. And if we do have a season upcoming, it'll be a pleasure for me to come back out to Ripley and get to see you play again, pal. So thank you very much for being with us.
All right, thanks a lot for doing this, and thanks a lot for having me.
All right. Once again, we want to say thank you to Garrett Meurs for joining us here on the podcast. It was great to talk with him. It's great to get his thoughts on the league and on the season. And it was an absolute pleasure having him on, and we hope to talk with him again. As mentioned, the next guest on the podcast this upcoming Monday is going to be Jake Prudhomme, the assistant coach of the Petrolia Squires. We look forward to having Jake on and picking his brain about the league and the Petrolia Squires and their organization. They went through a tumultuous season. It was really up and down, and I look forward to picking his brain on the season that was and what it's going to look like for Petrolia in a massive uncertainty next season. Given that they've already kind of gone through some changes, but we'll get into that with Jake. Hopefully we can touch on that with him on Monday. Otherwise, we want to say thank you to Garrett Meurs, our guest. We want to thank Mitch Scott of Starting Lineup Uniform and Apparels for being the presented sponsor. And I want to thank you, the viewer, for watching once again the WOA Senior AA Men's Hockey League podcast. This was episode number 11. Andrew Rogers, the host, saying good night, have a nice weekend, and thank you very much for watching. See you next time.